No, 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 please no. No, no, no. Get out, get out. The engine didn't want to start and I tried everything to get it. Come on, come on. Get out, get out. This happened to me in 2015. At that time I was 25 years old, and I was just starting in this trailer job. One afternoon, I was ordered to make a trip to Monterrey, Nuevo Leon. I had to carry beef, so it shouldn't take so long with my delivery. One of the disadvantages of this job is that most of your hours are spent on the road, and one can no longer devote as much time to the family as he wishes. It hurt me a lot to be away from home for so long. I missed my wife and my son too much, who at that time was 4 years old. That trip would be quick, so I convinced my wife to let me take him with me, to spend more time with him. He loved it when I took him to the trailer cabin, so he got excited when I told him that he would take him on a trip with me. We left the house and went to pick up the box with the merchandise. The journey went normally until, when entering the state of Querétaro, almost at nightfall, 2 tires were broken. If I continued my journey like this, the rims could end up breaking the tires and could severely damage them. That's why I better stop and call the company to send me a mobile vulcanizer. The minutes passed, and when it got dark completely, my phone rang. It was a call from the company's staff, warning me that they would not come to change my tires until the next day. This filled me with worry, for I would have to park next to the road and spend the night there. I feared that they would assault me, but what worried me the most was to be there, standing in the middle of nowhere and with my little son. I didn't know exactly where we were, but close to where we stopped, there was a bridge, and under it I crossed a stream. It's the only reference point I have of the place. I put the trailer in the accommodation, and I put signs at a distance, so that it would not cause an accident, and I prepared to spend the night there. I closed everything perfectly. I put blankets on the bed, so that my son would be comfortable and not feel cold. I prepared dinner with food that I always carry with me, and before midnight we went to sleep. I felt very exposed and insecure, but fortunately the bed is up, behind the seats. In this way, I could peek everywhere in case something strange was heard. We lay down together, and I closed my eyes and tried to rest. Near 2 or 3 in the morning, my son woke me up. I saw him very scared and tried to move desperately. I quickly sat down and asked him what was happening. In his way and with his words, he told me that outside, he was listening to a woman who was crying and throwing very horrible tears of pain. Of course he didn't tell me that, but he tried to recreate the sound he heard, and that's how I understood it. I don't know if I didn't believe him, or better said, I didn't want to believe him. I tried to convince him that he had had a nightmare, that what he had heard wasn't real, because the possibility that what he was telling me was true terrified me too much. He asked me who that woman was, and why she lamented like that, if she needed help, or if something bad had happened to her. The innocence of his words filled me with fear, because for me it was almost impossible that he was inventing it. I laid him down so that he would go back to sleep, and I was covering him again when I also heard it. It was a long lament, indeed, of a woman, who seemed to be suffering too much. All the hairs of my arms were scratched, and I felt a cold scale that fell to my bones. I opened the curtain that separates the dressing room from the rest of the cabin, and I looked out the windshield to see what was happening, and there she was, on the bridge, the source that threw those horrible tears of pain, a woman dressed in white, who seemed to be wandering aimlessly. I don't remember feeling as much fear in my life as I did that night. The simple fact of knowing that very possibly, in front of me was the one that everyone knows as the Llorona, was a reason to want to run away from there. I felt so vulnerable being there alone. The only thing that gave me courage was my father's protective instinct. My fear grew when that woman walked down the road. I was terrified that she was heading towards us. I didn't know what to do, so I turned on the main lights of the trailer, with the desire that it would scare her. But this caused me even more fear, because when I did this, I realized that woman was floating a few centimeters from the ground. My tears wanted to come out, and I started to hear the hornets of the trailer making a scandal. I was desperate. I was doing everything I could to scare that horrible woman. My son, when he heard the hornets, came out of the room wondering what was happening. I asked him to stay in there and I lowered the curtain. I didn't want him to get scared too when he saw her. Since nothing worked, the woman kept moving towards the road, and she was getting closer and closer to us. I thought I couldn't stand seeing that woman up close. I didn't know what would happen if she got to where we were. I took out the key and inserted it into the switch. I knew I shouldn't move the truck, and that I could damage it. But at that moment it was what I cared about the least. The only thing I thought about was getting out of there as fast as possible. And the way it was, I inserted the key and turned the switch to start it. It didn't want to turn on the first one and I tried again. No, 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 please no. No, 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 get out. Start. The engine did not want to turn on and I tried everything to achieve it. Come on, come on. Start, start. I did not have the short circuit activated. I had fuel in the tank. I didn't understand what was going on. Maybe the lights and the crazy sound of the hornets had run out of batteries, but that didn't seem possible to me. I tried to pull it out countless times, but I couldn't do it. The seconds seemed eternal to me. My hands and feet trembled, and as that entity approached, I thought less clearly. The woman reached the road, and apart from that, the terror that those horrible laments produced in me was added. In a moment of lucidity, I thought of doing something. I placed the key switch at the point of the accessories, put the third speed, and activated the brake valves. I did this because we were down. And the truth is, I didn't care if the wheels broke, the tires were torn, and these were damaged. All I cared about at that moment was to get out of there and be safe with my son. Thank God, this did work. With the flight that took the trailer, it was enough for it to start. As soon as the engine turned on, I accelerated to the bottom to get out of there as fast as I could. I advanced about 100 meters, and I thought I had left that macabre woman behind. So I directed my gaze towards the right rearview mirror, but what I saw made the blood run down to my feet. You won't believe it, but that woman was standing on the right rear stirrup. I felt that my pressure dropped, I felt that my strength abandoned me, but I began to pray and to think in my son, and I feel that that's what made me strong. I took the steering wheel with force, and kept accelerating, trying not to turn to see the mirror. Suddenly, the cries stopped, and that made me feel a little relieved. After that, and out of responsibility, and because I knew I didn't have two wheels, I slowed down a little, but I didn't stop my march. After several kilometers, I found a gas station. I got to the bomb area and I got down shaking from the trailer. I left the door open and I threw myself on the pavement. This caught the attention of the two dispatchers who were at that moment and they approached me. A little alarmed, they asked me if I was okay, what was happening to me. I was still somewhat agitated by the impression. As I could, I told them that kilometers back, the cry had appeared to me, and that I had tripped on the back of the right side. The curiosity of one of them led him to review the entire trailer, but when he came back with me, he told me that he was no longer there. They helped me and were very kind. They were there with me as I calmed down. I told them that I was coming with my son, and I asked one of them to go up to the cabin and please check how he was. He accessed and went up to the dressing room. I felt great relief when I saw him put him down in his arms. He was perfectly fine. A little upset because he saw me scared, but he was fine. When the scare passed, I told them everything in detail. They offered me to stay there all the time necessary to stabilize my nerves and to get there to change my wheels. The ones I brought, I just broke them on the way. Fortunately, I did not get out of control, and thank God nothing serious happened to us. As soon as it dawned, I called the company, and I told them briefly that I had to move the trailer for safety. I didn't tell them the real reasons. I feared they wouldn't believe me. And since then, I haven't brought my son back when I travel at night, and less when I have to go through that route. When you start working as a trailer driver, you consider all the dangers and advantages that this profession has. However, finding yourself on the roads with this type of phenomenon, very few times one considers them on their list of things to be taken care of, and even, many times to which we must face.